Hey, welcome back to the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge. Today is Invisible Sister. This is a Disney Channel original movie. It is about an hour and 18 minutes long. It's from 2015, and it stars Rowan Blanchard. She plays Cleo, and also Paris Barrelk plays Molly. They play two sisters. And in the usual kind of, movie dichotomy, you got the popular pretty one, and we get the more nerdy, mostly invisible, more mousy one, or darker, more sarcastic, not as positive one. Cleo is that one, let's say, less popular one. She's always outshined by her much more popular sister, and she's a little resentful of it, but she tries not to show it. It usually comes out in sarcasm, and she is a expert. She knows everything in school. She's smart. She's getting perfect grades, and she is a science teacher that is pushing her beyond what the other kids are doing because she is that good. And she's been pressured to get a real kick butt experiment in for half her grade. It'll count for half her grade if she does it right. Meanwhile, her sister Molly decides to host a party at their house when their parents are gone. Yes, they have two parents. It's a Disney movie, and they have two parents. However, you do not see them except for one scene at the beginning and one scene at the end. They may as well not exist, but they have to in order to have a place to live and not have someone lording it over them. They pretty much are left to their own devices, and they get to run the house for probably a week. I don't know why their parents left. I missed that part, but they left. And two high school girls left to their own devices. What could go wrong? But it's a Disney Channel movie, so the more popular sister, Molly, hosts a party that is packed with teens, and all of them leave at a responsible time, and nobody is seen drinking. And there's nothing untoward happening, and she greets them all and says, "Good night. We have an early day tomorrow. We'll see you tomorrow, for practice and everything else," because she's on the lacrosse team. So, yeah, it doesn't sound too realistic so far until we get to the part where Cleo turns Molly invisible by accident. Yeah, so Cleo's experiment accidentally turns a moth invisible, and when she realizes what she has here, it's a big deal. But the moth flies away, and she's chasing it with a butterfly net through the entire party, which is going on as she's working on this experiment in her room, in a very sort of public room with big windows, so you could see outside what's going on outside. It's sort of to show how she's letting life pass her by as she's just working. She has her best friend, which is a dorky kid played by Kanan Brar, named George. He is just always he's always hitting on the girls. He's not creepy about it, thankfully, but he has a crush on a girl named Nikki, who, by the way, just so you know, there's this Disney World, this Disney universe kind of thing. They reuse a lot of their actors, and you'll recognize Ronan Blanchard, Cleo, from the Goldbergs. She was one of Adam's girlfriends on there, Jackie. And Nikki, one of the girls, part of Molly's crew, she plays the niece of Tim Meadows' character on Schooled, which is a decade later than the Goldbergs. So they're all connected. I'm sure half these kids also showed up on the Goldbergs at some point or another. But yeah, so they're all connected. By the way, this takes place in New Orleans, however you want to say it. I'm not from the area, so I don't know. But yeah, so the icky part of this is that she doesn't capture the moth. However, the moth finds its way back into the house and falls into Molly's drink that she takes before she goes to bed, and it tastes weird. And but she swallows the moth whole amongst whatever she was drinking, and she wakes up the next morning invisible. Shenanigans, antics ensue. Things go wacky as they try to come to terms with what's going on. The problem is that Molly has a lot of stuff going on the next day, and Cleo has to stand in for her. So technically, this is the first time the girl who's technically invisible has to be seen. Thankfully, we're like a day before Halloween, or it's the day. Friday is the day before Halloween, or whatever. I don't know. It's Halloween. And so Cleo has to dress up as Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz, which was Molly's costume, and then put on a big, like, mask that, a Mardi Gras mask that covers her face. So they're like, oh, you can be Mardi Gras Dorothy. Sure. If this didn't take place in New Orleans, it would be a humongous stretch as to figure out why she was wearing a mask that big with the Dorothy costume. So that's literally the place where they are is super important just for that one reason. It wouldn't work in Los Angeles or New York or Chicago. I mean, what reason? But you're in New Orleans, and guess what? Wearing a big mask, nobody questions it. Even though these girls, to me, I don't see it. They don't look anything alike. They don't sound alike to me, and yet somehow everybody falls for it, and they all know that they just Cleo disguises herself perfectly as Molly as she goes back to school, and she has to take tests, and then she has a lacrosse game, and yeah, so all high concept stuff. The weird thing is, one of the things you have to understand that they don't just write out the actress out of the show the moment that she turns invisible. She's literally still there, and she's still acting with Cleo, Paris, who plays Molly. We can see Paris sometimes, depending on how they shoot it. They might have a floating object in the air to show us what everybody else sees. But we also get to see Molly, even though she's invisible. We can see that what she's doing and how she's reacting to certain people, especially in how she's communicating with her sister. So you can see emotions and see what's going on. So that's a little cheat for us. The hardest problem I had was, and I knew the writers, when they came up with this, were like, how are we going to do this? How do we explain this? Because the most important thing is that if you're invisible, does that mean your clothes are invisible? And if she became invisible by drinking a moth, why would her clothing be invisible? Because the moment they first showed her in a way that we could see her, but Cleo couldn't, I was like, how are her pajamas invisible? Like, this is not, notice how the Fantastic Four movies were always trying to get Jessica Alba naked, just so, ooh, she's invisible because she doesn't have control over her clothing yet. There's no unstable molecules. That's a Marvel thing. And in order to, the thing is that apparently when the person turns invisible, whatever they're touching for a good period of time also turns invisible. Somehow her bed and her pillows didn't turn invisible, but her clothing did. And so when we see her, we don't see a naked teenage girl. Thankfully, it would be a completely different channel movie. It'd be the Cinemax channel movie, probably. Or probably not legal to play because they're teenagers. It was creepy enough when the camera would, at nighttime after the party was over, would pan by their bedroom windows and we'd see what's going on in them. And, say, here's Molly, getting out of bed and going over to the bathroom to brush her teeth. And then it pans over into Cleo's room as she's doing homework or something. And you're just like, that's creepy enough. Like, we're getting a view of somebody who'd be stalking them outside their window. But then you're in the situation where, hey, this teenage girl, we have to rationalize why this teenage girl is not naked when she is invisible. Thankfully, they came up with a reason. Yes, it's far-fetched. Yes, it's unlikely, but it had to be explained. And they doubled down on it later on because at some point she steals a costume from somebody. It was just like a big bear costume from her boyfriend, actually. And he's the Coog, is his name. And he has a nickname, and he's not very bright, but he's very sweet. And she dresses up in the bear costume in order to talk to people and say, "Hey, it's me, Molly," whatever. Or she pretends to be Cleo in the costume. Anyway, but the bear costume starts disappearing also, slowly, because it's thicker and heavier, apparently. It's great that they thought of all these things, because to me, I'd be just like, if you did not explain that, this makes no sense, and your sci-fi license is revoked. Your sci-fi fantasy license is revoked. It's like not explaining time travel if you're making a Back to the Future movie. It's just preposterous. So anyway, they get to live at each other's. It's one of those things where it's not necessarily a Disney trope, but it is living your life in somebody else's shoes. Where Cleo has always felt invisible. She's more like the little gothy emo kind of chick who's just sort of stepped back from the popular crowd, and she gets to learn what it's like to be in her sister's life, being seen all the time, and how people react to her, and how people treat her, and how she treats other people, and how they think of her. And meanwhile, Molly's invisible in the background, listening and watching everything that her sister's experiencing in her shoes. So she learns a little bit of something as a third person in the room, kind of thing. And then you see, at the same time, when Cleo she wears a face mask as well. Part of her uniform is playing lacrosse. Somehow still everybody believing that she's Molly, and Molly helping her out, really cheating, because she's as an invisible girl, just starts knocking over the other players that might get in the way of her sister scoring a goal or something. I'm pretty sure that's cheating. It makes for some great effects, because I think they did a really good job especially when Cleo first gets knocked on her butt, and they do a little slow motion, almost Zack Snyder thing, not really, but a little bit, and knock her over, and she does a great fall. I think the actress actually did it, from what I could tell. And then they have other girls just doing slow-mo flips and drops and things like that. It was actually really well done. Some of the effects for the invisibility are a little cheesy, especially at the beginning when she hasn't discovered that she's invisible yet, and she's the slippers and whatever else, and as the toothbrush. It didn't make a whole lot. It didn't look good, but throughout the rest of the film, it actually got better. So yeah, the effects work, the story works, the girls are great. Actually, everybody is great in this thing. Especially Rowan. Rowan, she does a narration at the beginning. Usually I don't like that too much. By the way, this is based on a book called Invisible Sister. I don't know who wrote it, but yes. Anyway, you'll find that out in the credits when you watch it. You should watch it. I actually highly recommend it. I actually really like this movie. Rowan is superb. She's believable. She's the only other Disney Channel trope is that when they discover that she's invisible, they do the scream that girls do in Disney things. Stop doing that, please. I realize that's the indicator that something has gone wrong, and everybody realizes it. It's the universal indicator for Disney Channel movies that the crap has hit the fan. I'm trying not to swear. But yeah, that's how it works. So, but beyond that bit, she is completely relatable in her line delivery and how she plays Cleo, how she interacts with her teacher, her best friend, her sister, other people around her. She's acerbic, and she's jaded, and she's sarcastic, but she's not so much that she's unlikable. She's not angry. She's just used to it. She's used to what her place is and how things are with her. Her parents barely realize she's there when she gets home. Her sister is very kind and invites her to go for ice cream with all of her friends, and she's like, no, I'm not going to do that. And it's believable that she would not feel right to do that. But yeah, it's she's great. I like Jackie on Goldberg. She was always fun. A fun foil for Adam. But in this, she really shines, and it doesn't slack off at any point. She handles every situation realistically, and she is fantastic. This is a girl I hope I see a lot more of in the future, and hopefully this is a girl who gets some plum roles as she gets older, and something that can get her in front of people giving out awards. I just like her. Rowan, kicking butt. Nothing against everybody else. Paris is great. Karan is great. It's just the Coog is hilarious. But for my money, Rowan is just kicking butt in this, and way to go. I can't say much more about this movie, but I actually really enjoyed it, and so I'm going to tell you I highly recommend it if you didn't already watch it with me when I told you yesterday. So, Invisible Sister. There's a lot of bad Disney Channel movies out there. This is not one of them. Surprised me. Yes, there's stuff that's suspension of disbelief. You have to have the science behind the invisibility and how they handle it. Will she be invisible forever? Will she be cured of the invisibility? You know how that's going to work out, and how they do it. Yes, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense in any realistic scientific terms, but it's not meant to. That's not the point. So other than that, you can really enjoy it. If you can set that stuff aside, it is an enjoyable film. No matter how old you are or how young, I think you'll get something out of this. It's kind of fun. All right, let's pick tomorrow's. 504. I think we're in the thes. Excuse me. 50. Oh, we already had 504. I'll show you. That only blank one right there. So weird. That's what it was. 504 was so weird. Actually, and that was a really good one too. If you didn't get a chance to watch my review of that, So Weird is actually a Disney Channel level X-Files that is not crappy at all. 746. Ooh, one of the high numbers. 746. Come on. Oh, we had this one too. 746 was Wild Yellowstone. Okay, well, this one's going to go really long because we keep picking old numbers. Maybe it's time to add some new numbers. 317. 317. Let's see what we got here. Okay, we had 317 also. 317 was, right, that's right there between the greens there. 317 was actually our very first one, Lend a Paw. Holy cow. That was 256 days ago. That was our very first one. 317 was our very first one. How could I forget that? 451. Man, this is going on 20 minutes. 451. Come on. Give me something good. Okay. 451. This one we haven't had. It's a movie. It's Ready to Run. Ready to Run. 451. Don't know what it is, but it's got running, and people are ready for it. All right, we're watching Ready to Run on the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge tomorrow, and I'll see you back here. Bye.